And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Bubba and the Bloom, episode 32. Going to catch you up the best we can on the craziness that is this MLB Hot Stove. Someone said it was back in like February when Machado signed last year, so we had to wait till then. That did not happen this year. Lots of early Christmas presents for a lot of people around baseball. So we'll get to each and every one of those moves. You can find me, though, first on Twitter at BDentric. And my co-host, no, that is not Joe Burrow with the Yeti mic in front of him. That is Mr. Ryan Bloomfield on Twitter at RyanBHQ. Ryan, how we doing, man?
We prep for this one pretty hardcore. I think we've got like 35 or 40 different items to cover. So we're gonna go quick hit, just try and get through as much as possible. And I guess the thought is, if you listen to us for an hour, you'll be all caught up.
That's the goal.
But honestly, like if this was, I mean, think back to a year ago when there was just absolutely nothing. There was no winter meetings. There was no transactions. I would much rather be prepping furiously for a wave of moves like we are this year than what we were going through last year. So I'm excited, man.
Yeah, because this will be great because when the holidays come up soon, then it's hardcore draft season and prepping. Like we don't have that empty void of what are we going to talk about for like a month and going from there. It's perfect.
Have you held off on additional drafts since our Thursday episode?
I said outside of like an occasional gladiators because it goes. I'm only doing live gladiators if I do one. I'm not doing a slow one, so I might sign up for one. Honestly, Wednesday night. I'm debating it. Going to be the little one's going to be somewhere else. So I have the empty house. I might jump in a gladiator Wednesday night. Otherwise, I told myself one draft at a time. One at a time. I'm currently around 49 of my NFBC 50. There's a good chance I'll be signing up for my second one tomorrow. So awesome. I'm still holding to my guns, though. I'm slowly getting it through instead of a million drafts at the same time.
I have held off.
When are you starting?
Yeah, I don't know. I said January. The big thing is like we're going out of town for Christmas for like a week. So that kind of makes it. I'm not. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. Pretty hardcore. So I am not going to draft while I'm on vacation, but it does kind of split up. Like if I wanted to start a draft champions, I kind of need to do it right now. So I don't know. Maybe we'll jump in a draft together starting tomorrow or something when you're.
You just let me know. I'm always down. Like that's my debate is, the holidays coming up. I don't want to be that guy. It's like I got to go to the bathroom. Oh, I got to go do this just to make your draft picks over and over again. So
yeah. No, Can
I wait another week? Maybe. Yeah.
I'm gonna unplug pretty hard, and then when we get back we're flying back on New Year's. We're going down to Arizona.
Nice.
Flying back on New Year's, and then we'll be ready to roll. So
well, let's just get to it now. Are we getting some barbecue when we're in Arizona? Or
no? Probably. This is Tucson, so
yeah. It's worth the drive.
No, I'm not gonna. I'm not going back up to Little Miss Barbecue. As much as fun as that was with you,
it's got to be an FPAS tradition. I got you.
Yeah, okay. We'll keep it FPAS only.
Oh wow! Sorry, I have to announce it. I think I just got to notice that Carlos Correa, 13 years, $350 million with the Giants. Live on the air now, folks. 13 years, $350 million.
Passing confirmed.
Yeah, it's confirmed. I got a text message while you were talking. God damn it.
What?
You're not happy.
You're not happy?
I don't want 13 years of Carlos Correa. 13 years? Like literally, we can't get judged. Let's give the money to Correa. I don't mind Correa. I literally had this conversation with two other guys earlier today that between Swanson and Correa scares me because of the length of the deal. 13 years, he'll be 41 years old. 41. Tell me when that ever works out for anybody.
It doesn't. Let's see how it's. No, I mean it. I mean, unless you're like, well, no, it really doesn't. Unless you're Nelson Cruz, maybe. But Correa. This will be his age 28 season. So I guess we're going right into the analysis.
Yeah, we're starting this. You got the instant reaction from me right there. You got it all live on air
and on video. Bubba like keeled back into the
how many 4-letter words just got stuck in my mouth and not released.
We are now an explicit podcast.
Man,
I mean, dude, they gotta spend. No, it's a long time, but he'll be 41. Correa's age 28, so he'll be 41 when that thing's over. Payrolls will payroll. The thing with
will
like,
go up.
13 years from now,
Oh,
payrolls
it'll seem
will be
cheap. It'll seem cheap.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the joke
I
I've made
wouldn't
with
worry
a lot
about
of these, all of these deals we're going to talk about. And everyone's like, "Oh, it's record this." Yeah, we said that 5 years ago, and so, like we say it all the time. Like I like Carlos Correa on the Giants. Big fan of that. I'm not downplaying that. The length of the deal scares me, but maybe I haven't seen there's maybe opt outs or maybe it's a de-escalating salary. Who knows? Usually it's the opposite. But one thing you said is correct. The Giants have to spend. They have a boatload of cash.
Yep.
And they got it. So go and get it, I guess. I like him as a player. I'm just terrified, man. This health history and everything, it's a lot of money.
So, and he'll be, I think that's a profile that, who knows how long he'll stay on shortstop.
He has played a lot of games.
At some point, he's going to move off. Yeah, and I was just going to say, he's 640 plate appearances in 2021, 590 last year. Like Correa is pretty durable. And they just, that lineup, they need something, man. RIP my Brandon Crawford draft champion one share. But.
Well, look at that profile, like 20 to 25 homers, hits 280 to 290. Why didn't you sign Xander Bogaerts?
Yeah.
This is where I'm at right now. This is my problem. Like I like Correa as a player, but it feels like we got caught holding the bag, and now this is all that's left. And let's just spend our money. So, yeah, I hope people can be really good with technology and cut all that out and throw it in my face at the end of the year when he was the MVP. Like, do that, but I just don't see it happening.
I think he'll be fine, and I think it's mid-30. Next 5-7 years. Who knows after that? Like
when he tears,
be
his
happy,
ACL,
man.
Well,
be happy.
No, yeah, I'm happy. I'm happy. This is me happy. I should have brought a Noon instead of an energy drink.
You're happy, you're happy like I was happy last week in the draft when I got autoed Cal Raleigh.
Yeah, instead of it, Jonathan.
But on a happy face.
So. Yes. Okay. Well, Carlos Correa, everybody, to the San Francisco Giants. And one thing I'll mention now is I don't plan on talking about the years and AAV and all that with these guys because we're a fantasy podcast unless Ryan wants to bring it up. So I'm not going to go searching for all that fun stuff. But Carlos has literally just popped up 13.
No, that's crazy since it just came up and it's your team. Like, yeah,
right out the gate. First thing we talk about. Oh, man.
Wow.
Okay. Let's go to the one that the Giants. I'm glad they didn't. Also, these are the two guys I didn't want to get. We got one of the two. Aaron Judge goes back to the New York Yankees. Basically, the deal the Giants would have given him, the Yankees matched. He went back to New York. He used his childhood team as his pawn in this negotiation, which is dirty, dirty, dirty. You better do a lot of yoga, Aaron Judge, because you're going to be going Matrix on this stuff. But Aaron Judge goes back to the Yankees. Why would you not want to go back to the Yankees? That ballpark, just everything about it, coming off that year he had. We all know regression's coming. He can't be that good, but he's still going to be pretty darn good. Yeah, seems pretty simple, Ryan.
Yeah, you call it dirty, but that's pretty smart negotiation.
No, it's very smart. That was complete sarcasm. That's business 101 right there. That's like the joke when it looks like a guy's deal's almost done and all of a sudden the mystery team shows up. That's called the agent getting $10 million for you. That's what that was.
Yep. Old Heyman tweets out the mystery team. For Judge, speaking of Heyman and Judge, but by far probably the best.
Oh, God, you had to bring that up now after the Correa deal. Let's get better and better.
Going back to from a fantasy standpoint, Judge going back outside of getting signed by the Rockies, which was never going to happen. This is the best possible thing for his value, just because he's familiar with New York. He's going back to where he was. Really, nothing changes. There was the interesting story, and I don't want to make too big of a deal with it, but it was kind of right around. It was during the winter meetings when the news broke. Or not really the news broke. The study was published of how there were these commemorative baseballs that were these Goldilocks balls, and it might have helped. They were used for certain events, but then also a lot of Yankee games down the stretch. I don't know if that really makes any difference. That's one that kind of got blown out of the water on Twitter. The actual sample size of that study, which it was done by Dr. Meredith Wills, not to her fault. MLB would not actually give her balls to study.
I think that's almost the more interesting
sketchy
part of the article.
I know. For anyone, I did link out to it a few days ago if anyone wants to read it. But just interesting how there were a good amount of Yankee baseballs, at least from the small sample that was collected, that were used last year. But nothing to really take away from that. Perfect landing spot for Judge. If you were on Judge as a top 5 pick entering free agency, you are even more confident, I think, in him in 2023.
100% agree. Like, this shouldn't change much. I like Judge a lot. I probably won't have any Judge because he's going super early in drafts right now. But big fan of what he can do. If he can stay healthy, he's been proven to be one of the best guys in baseball when it comes to hitting. That ain't going to change. Let's go to Trea Turner, though. My boy, I'm very happy. He basically locks up the second overall pick for me outside of J-Ram. We've talked why J-Ram a lot recently. But Trea, to me, leaving the Dodgers to go to Philadelphia, which, yes, is what it is, but better ballpark, still a pretty good lineup. And one thing you're going to mention here again, the Phillies still run a lot, so we might get the old school Trea coming in here running like crazy, scoring well over 100 runs. This could be a big move for him, and I think the power will benefit in that ballpark too.
Yeah, from a park standpoint, it's better. LA is just the thing with LA. Like, I mean, the ideal for Turner would have been signing back in LA, just because I don't think many people realize he had 100 RBI last season. That's absolutely wild to me. That's not going to happen in Philly. I'm guessing he's going to lead off as opposed to hitting second like he did in LA behind Mookie Betts and not get 100 RBI. But still, any non-LA destination, I think Philly is fine. It's a good lineup. It'll be a great lineup once Bryce Harper's back, second half of the season. And like you hinted at, Bubba, they run. I mean, Philly was, and I don't look too much at like team-wide stolen base totals, just because it's hard to parse out how much is that like philosophy, or are you not running because you have guys that can't steal. But even so, last year the Phillies were the 7th highest in stolen base attempts. So, and you don't sign Trea Turner and not run him. So from that aspect, I think this is all systems go for Trea Turner. He is my 1 or 2 pretty easily next year, depending on if you like J-Ram more or less than Trea Turner.
Yep, that's where I'm at, and we've kind of set our piece, and you can't go wrong with either. I still think Trea's a beast. Like J-Ram because of scarcity, but zero problem with Trea. It's almost just give me the second pick. Let's just give me that, and I'll walk away. So I'm a big fan of that. Pitching, let's get to some big name pitchers here. Jacob deGrom, and I said I wasn't going to the years and stuff. 5 years is surprising. I'll say that much. Not going to go into the money, but 5 years for deGrom. Does that mean Texas's doctors are very good and know more than we do? Are they really bad? Just don't care. We'll see. But I think it's safe to say, we've said it time and time again, that per inning, per start, deGrom's still the best in baseball. And he's proven it when he's out there. It just can health sustain in this great move to a very nice pitcher's ballpark.
Yeah, and like with someone like deGrom, I think you kind of throw out any of the like factors, and I mean the dude is so good that it really does not matter. Like he's unbelievable. I mean, the one thing, like, and really nothing changes with this signing because of that. You could take it as, okay, Texas just laid out a bunch of money for Jacob deGrom. His medicals, he did quote unquote pass his medicals, for whatever that means. We talked about deGrom and the innings total at the Live First Pitch podcast and kind of pegged him around 120 innings. Does this signing give you more confidence that he could go more than 120? I don't know. I'm still penciling him at 120. I don't think he just suddenly magically gets healthy and Texas signs him. I still think there's a ton of risk despite the contract. I don't know what you feel about that, Bubba, but there is, I think, a lot of times something to a team signing somebody and he did pass their medicals. But I think with deGrom, I think Texas is just accepting the risk and hopefully getting the more rewards out of that equation.
I think you're right. And a part of me thinks, and I could be totally wrong, pure speculation, because I said Rodon was probably broken because he didn't get his qualifying offer from the White Sox.
Yep. So we kept saying that last year. Yep.
So I'm just going to say I could be totally wrong, but it feels like if he was 100% healthy, and I know the Mets offered him more money, but they didn't want to give him that extra year that deGrom wanted. He wanted that year. So maybe there's something there. Maybe the fact the Mets wanted to offer him the money too says something, but we also know the Mets medical staff. Take that with a grain of salt. It's tough. Like, you want to trust because he's so good. I guess the theory is, and he's still not going super high for deGrom standards, I'll say. Still going next to Spencer Strider, which is funny since it's been all over a month since we did that show. But like, I've heard Sporer talk about it and Mason talk about it. They're thinking like 135-ish innings. So you're still close. Like that makes sense. Like, was that 2 more starts maybe? You have to expect him to hopefully get it done. So when you're drafting him, what I would be thinking is think like recent years Clayton Kershaw, where you're getting like 130 to 140 innings, but those are elite innings. And every year we make fun of it when you say drop him down in drafts. And then every year Clayton Kershaw pitches great, and he helps fantasy teams because people let him drop in drafts. Now deGrom's not going to drop like that, so that's why I want to clarify it. But I think mindset going into it, and a great point that Mason made the other day, I'll steal it from him. It's like, we always talk about, and you do it really well, and we talk about middle of the rounds and having plans for drafts. If you are going to take deGrom, you almost have to go pocket aces, just in case deGrom falters.
Yeah,
it's almost like you have to have a plan to like secure your ace when you do it. So it's kind of something to think about. It's going to be hard to pass him up if he keeps sitting in that third round because we know what he can do, but the injury risk is a concern. I'm not going to deny that. So
I mean, the one thing
saying I'm concerned, yes.
I mean, yeah, the one thing I could say with reasonable certainty is that he's not actively injured or there's nothing structurally wrong, or else I don't think Texas would have
passed the physical like
trigger. So
I
don't know. There's so many. This is the beauty of speculating in the offseason, because yes, why didn't the Mets go that extra year? Maybe the Mets knew they were getting Verlander anyway, so they just said bye to deGrom because they signed Verlander like a day or two later. So I don't know. You can put yourself down many different rabbit holes with these things, which is what makes it fun.
And Ryan's a professional now, guys. We've been podcasting about a year. Absolute professional there. Justin Verlander gets signed by the Mets. Literally, like as the Mets were screaming into the void, the screams came back real quickly because Verlander goes to the Mets, big boy deal to go join Scherzer there in the top of that rotation. And I loved Verlander's value last year, not getting it this year, but to me, I have zero concerns. I don't think there's a lot here unless you have something that I don't. I think this is just a beast, going to be a beast. He's a second guy behind Scherzer potentially in his rotation. Like, don't overthink it's the way I see it.
Yeah, I mean, and like I said, we could analyze him all day if we wanted to, but if you were in on Verlander before the signing, you're in on him now. Like this move does really nothing to change his outlook. Maybe a little bit less run support. I mean, the Houston lineup is just so good, but the Mets bullpen is fantastic. The Mets park is much more pitcher friendly. So from an actual like move standpoint, it's pretty lateral. So like I said, if you're a Verlander guy, and he's pretty polarizing given the age and the lower strikeouts and all that stuff, but you can't argue with those ratios. And yeah, nothing really changes there. The big thing that for me changes is Peterson, David Peterson.
Well, that's what's going to come with this next guy. The next guy, because now Peterson and Miguel both, like, it seemed like Peterson was first before Miguel. Both had chances to jump back in rotation. But after Verlander, about a week or so later, the Mets signed Kodai Senga. This is the big pitcher coming out of Japan. Next best pitcher since Ohtani to come out of Japan. Obviously, I'm not comparing the two, but that's kind of where we're at on this one. Dude's a beast. He's a high 90s, even clicks in the low 100s. Got a splitty, got a curveball. He's got the repertoire that most of these Japanese pitchers have. Super effective guy over there. I've heard many mixed reviews from people that have scouted him on what to think of him. But this is one of those as a Giants fan. When I saw 5 for 75, I'm like, why were we not there on this? But it's very interesting. He could slot in as the third through the fifth. That's how differing the opinions are on Senga right now. Is where's he going to fit? Some people are even crazy enough to say he's just a long man, which I don't see happening. You don't pay him long starting pitcher money to be a long man. But really, really interesting stuff. Outstanding in Japan, obviously. And yes, RIP Peterson and Miguel until one of the many pitchers gets hurt in New York.
That's true. Like, well, I'll get to Senga in a second, but maybe this is kind of good news from a fantasy angle for David Peterson, because I think that ADP is going to head south. He is the 6th or 7th starter on the Mets, which means he's going to get a shot at some point. And in the draft and hold, if you can take that shot in like the 30th round or whatever, that makes a ton of sense to me. So it's not so much what is it? Not goodbye, see you later, something like that for Peterson. I think he'll be back.
he makes for like it's always cliche. People hate it, but literally the drop in the ADP makes him a phenomenal DC pick because you're going to use him. I would put a bet out there he gets at least 10 starts by the end of the season, at least. So like that'll play in a DC. That will play.
I'd take the over on that, especially the second half of the year when you're just struggling for starting pitching. So yes, do not give up on David Peterson. McGill, maybe I'm like tarnished from last season, but like I just don't trust the health. I would take Peterson over McGill right now, but yeah, either one, they're both going to get their time if they're healthy. Going back to Senga, like I had his box in the forecaster, but it's just so hard to project something. I mean, we do translate the overseas numbers into major league equivalents, which is helpful. And we came up with our model came up with a projection of like a 360 ERA, 125 whip with a lot of Ks, 27% K rate for Senga. What makes this, and we've talked about this a lot, Bubba, is the split finger, how that can even add to the variance if you have feel for it, if you don't have feel for it. We've talked about that with Montas and Kevin Gossman. Senga's a big split finger guy. So that kind of just even more accentuates that boomer bust risk reward with him. So I don't know. I think treat him as like a number 3. If there's obviously room for more if things work out, but then there's also, a low floor as well.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing from everything I've read from a lot of smart people. It's the ceiling is an ace. They could have 3 aces. The floor, he could be the long man out of the bullpen and David Peterson starting, like type stuff. It's a wide array with Senga, but the talent is definitely legit. And now you got a Verlander, Scherzer, Senga top 3, followed by Carrasco and another guy we'll talk about in Quintana here in a bit. How about we just talk about him now? Let's just knock out all the Mets rotation here. The Mets bring in Jose Quintana, which might be the sneakiest move out of all of them for them because it locks in a lefty in the rotation. RAP David Peterson again. But it locks in Quintana. It locks in the lefty, a guy it seems like perennially is just underappreciated, but he just gets it done and gets it done. Pitched on a really good couple teams last year before he got traded, St. Louis and company. But just effective, man. The strikeouts went down a bit last year, but in doing so, his ratios were phenomenal. So he goes to the Mets as the number 5 in that rotation. The pitching depth in New York is tremendous. We've said that before about other teams, but to start the year, it's tremendous. So Quintana to the Mets. Again, Peterson, McGill out for now.
Yep. And for Quintana himself, like that's a great move. Just that combination of park, of bullpen, and of run support. Like that's going to help. Quintana is funny. Like Quintana made 32 starts last year. And this is actually kind of wild. Since we're focusing more and more on wins this offseason, a 2.93 ERA and 32 starts. You probably have it in front of you. How many wins should that get you?
On paper, Jordan Montgomery would say that should get you about 13 wins, at least.
Yeah. Jose Quintana had a losing record with a 2.93 ERA. He had 6 wins and 7 losses. So like if he put if Jose Quintana, I don't think he's going to do a 2.93 ERA again, but I mean, that's a different conversation, but maybe he's like a mid 3s type of guy, which is still fine. I think even if Quintana's ERA goes to mid 3s with the Mets, that's probably 10, 11 wins. So that's a big boom for Quintana's value.
Let's have some fun here. This is what happens when we talk on the show, go on rabbit holes. I mean, we might have a part 2 segment next week for the rest that we miss here. But you threw Quintana's out there, and people might forget he started with Pittsburgh, went to St. Louis. So you'd expect some improvements. But with St. Louis, August 4th on, made 12 starts, Ryan. Now, do you have this in front of you? Because if not, I have some questions for you.
No, I don't.
Okay, 2.01 ERA during those starts.
Yeah, look at that. Now I have it.
3-2 record in 12 starts. So he still couldn't get what you'd expect. A 2.01 ERA and got 3 whole wins in 12 starts. It's crazy.
Yeah, that's
man.
wild.
That's not, but he's pretty much going 5 innings almost every start outside of a couple. 2 earned runs or less in every single outing. Not all starts went super deep, but at least 2 earned runs in each start. He's a baller, man, and he's just kind of underappreciated. And he's one of those kind of later round. Again, he hasn't shown this kind of ratio support his entire career. I'm not going to say that, but I think this is who he is now. He kind of sacrificed the strikeouts, and he's more of a pitcher. And this is, I think, what we can expect with him with the Mets, I think. So I shouldn't say.
Just funny, like, and I'm kind of like learning. We're learning together. We're learning on the fly. Like I look at Quintana's line last year and say, he was lucky. But I'm only focusing on the things that we've traditionally looked at: ERA, BABIP, that kind of stuff. He was actually really unlucky with wins, and that matters just as much as ERA. So
big time. Like there's a lot to like here, and K to walk 13.3. Like literally throughout his career, he dropped his strikeout rate a lot, but his walk rate came down, and it's all about the limiting the contact stuff. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like his barrel rate was down to 5.5 after an 11.9 the year before. Hard hit rate that 35.8. That's the best since 2017 for him. So he did a great job of locating and limiting the damage, which when you get older, that's a great philosophy. Ask Glavine and company. So something to think about.
Or just in general, limit the damage.
Limit the damage. Story of my life. On to the St. Louis Cardinals here. This will be a fun one. Quintana's former team. They made a big splash. They have Goldie. They have Arenado. Bring in division rival Willson Contreras to the club. Big boy move here. I like this one quite a bit. We always say the ballpark's not great there. Well, Goldie did just fine. Arenado did just fine. I think Contreras will do his thing. In reality, it's probably more of a lateral move, just a better lineup around him. But he's still going to be one of the top 5 or 6 catchers in fantasy baseball, at least during draft season.
Yep. And, I mean, similar to like Verlander.
I didn't mean to steal your line. I just saw it right now. I didn't even see that.
No, you're good. Like, I mean, this is something where like nothing really changes. I mean, I agree with everything you said. And if you were drafting Willson Contreras early in draft season, he was going to get signed by somebody. And so he was being drafted as a full-time catcher, and he is. So, you nailed the point on like it's pretty neutral, but hitting probably in front of or right behind. Either way, even if it's before Goldie and Arenado, that's runs galore. If it's after, it's RBI galore. So it's just the shape of that distribution looks a little bit different. Yan Gomes is kind of a sneaky second catcher. I mean, we're going back to your wheelhouse here, Bubba, with sneaky second catchers.
I appreciate you.
Yeah. I got to keep rubbing that in. I mean, Yan Gomes is, as of now, the guy with the Cubs, and if you need a second catcher, there you go. And I guess Andrew Knizner was going to be the St. Louis guy, and it's kind of weird. Like he's being groomed by Yachty to take over the throne once he retires, and then they bring in the guy from the Cubs. No, never mind.
And I love the Gomes shout out there because he's a guy I wrote up even this year in the Black Book that he's pretty much an AL only guy because you'd expect the Cubs to bring someone in, but if they don't, he's been more than serviceable in a full-time role or a leading catcher role, I should say. Yep. So in your deeper leagues, like that's a dude that all of a sudden 15-team leagues, catcher 2, it's an option, especially with Ryan Jeffers off the board. Now we'll get to that in a minute. Like Gomes can kind of slot up there as another later round option and go from there. But I like that quite a bit.
Yep.
Xander Bogaerts, just mentioned him earlier because Carlos Correa, if you missed it, it's a San Francisco Giant for the next 13 years, folks. Xander Bogaerts goes to the San Diego Padres, division rival. I will not have to think about that for the next 13 years, so that'll be fun.
That's right.
Yeah, Xander Bogaerts goes to the Padres, so it's like you got Machado, you got Bogaerts, you got Soto, potentially Tatis, and much, much more. They just keep adding. It's like the old joke. It's like a slow pitch softball team. We can never have enough home runs or at least enough offense. So what's your thoughts on Xander in San Diego?
Just looking at because I forgot what Xander's details were. So 11-year 280 to Correa's. I'm just twisting the knife a little bit at this point.
That's why I made that. That's why I made that comp early on. I'm like, why did we not just sign Xander Bogaerts? Like, what are we doing here?
He's older, isn't he?
I don't care. He's getting more consistent over a longer period.
He's 1 year older. Come on, Bubba. I'm trying to throw you a bone here.
So he would have been gone at age 40. Okay, cool.
Yeah. Bogaerts, yes, the Padres lineup is great, and from a fantasy aspect, I'd much rather have Bogaerts in San Diego than back in Boston. The one thing that I paused, and I know Bogaerts isn't a major stolen base guy, but we talked about this a lot with Juan Soto. When Soto came over with the Padres, he stopped running completely. I wonder if stolen bases are no longer going to be part of that package for Bogaerts in San Diego. So that's the only thing that I would kind of look at. Couple just quick kind of fallouts of it. Like one sneaky guy who I had in the forecaster who put up double-digit homers and bags last year was Ha-Seong Kim. He probably loses, at least initially. Again, like we talked about with Peterson, with the Mets. This is all very subject to change once injuries start piling up. But Ha-Seong Kim probably out of a regular role right now and slides into more utility. And then there's ripple effects on Boston's side, right? Like Trevor Story, I think you can draft him assuming he'll be a shortstop, that he'll gain in season shortstop eligibility like in April. Yeah. So we talked about that a little bit in the Gladiator, which doesn't really matter for Gladiator, but for your drafts coming up with benches and that sort of thing. Trevor Story is going to go back to being second base, shortstop eligible. And then like Christian Arroyo, if Boston does nothing else, Christian Arroyo is probably someone who is getting playing time at second base. So something to think about there.
I love the Arroyo call because I don't think people realize just how sneaky good he was in deeper leagues last year. I picked him up on a lot of waiver wires. He had a ton of eligibility last year. Let me try to find out real quick here on the old NFBC ADP.
He played. He kind of got screwed.
Oh, he only got second base.
Yeah. So, but he played. But you're right. He did play He played 9 at first base. Yeah. Arroyo played 10 at third, 14 at shortstop, and 17 in the outfield. So if you're like in a 10-game eligibility league,
Yahoo, he's playing all over the place for you.
And Yahoo's everywhere. Even in 10 gamers, he's second, third, short, and outfield. But in your standard 20 gamers, he's only second, and that's not going to change. So that kind of sucks. But I mean, it's still Arroyo, sneaky guy. And this is like the thing. I mean, everyone focuses on Bogarts. You focus on the high name, all the dollars. Look at the guys who are filling in that door open for them. I mean, Arroyo 280 at bats last season, hit 286, 6 homers, 5 steals. Like that, it's going to play.
Look at the strikeout percentage went to 16.3, career 24 year before, 20 before that. Like that's big to me from a young guy. He's got the pedigree, and he's a former Giant prospect, and there's lots of hopes there. So maybe it's one of those. There was his age 27 season. He's starting to get comfortable at the plate. Barrel rate 6.4. He's always been a decent barrel guy, but the max EV best of his career last year. Hard hit rate best since the kind of quasi 2018, if you want to buy that sample size of what took place there in Tampa Bay. There's a lot to like there with the Royals, so I think that's a really good point. And the way the Red Sox are not really spending money, it might be his job. I don't see them potentially doing a ton to ruin that. Maybe they'll prove me wrong, but I think they're going to give him a good run. Why not? He's 28, see what he's got, and see if you have to move on because you either signed Devers, let him go, and you're redoing the whole thing. So it could get interesting. I like the Arroyo one quite a bit. He would actually move up the boards a little bit for me. We did talk second base being deeper than we expected during the Gladiators. You don't have to force it, but in your deeper formats, especially AL only, like that's a really nice little spot there to look for Christian Arroyo.
ADP right now in Draft Champions is
586.
Over 500. So
yeah, that's gonna
it's free. That's gonna go up. But
yeah, when we record next Thursday, I'd be willing to say closer to 500, maybe 475. He's going to get a boost, I think, because I think, that's just my 2 cents. He's getting locked in, I think. So we'll wait and see. Kenley Jansen, speaking of Boston not doing much, they did sign a closer. I am going to say I'll give them that much credit. They went and got Kenley Jansen, which was music to all of our ears. I was always one that said Iglesias is the closer in Atlanta. They would not have traded for Iglesias to not make him the closer the following season. I've been proven wrong many times, but I feel a lot better now seeing that take place. There's also rumors of Jansen going to the Giants. Didn't see that ever happening, to be totally honest. But that did not happen. And he went to Boston, a team that did need a closer. Cody Martin came in, good. Jansen probably better. So at worst, bad starting rotation. Okay, bullpen now in Boston.
Yeah, I mean, at least we have one more bullpen with a closer, like a full-time closer. That just our collective sanity as fantasy baseball drafters. We do have that. So yeah, like there's not really much. I mean, Jansen is who Jansen. There was a lot of talk at first pitch about Jansen as a pitch clock guy. That's going to be interesting. He takes his time out there, and he's not going to be able to do that next season. And he's older, set in his ways. Let's see how that affects him. But yeah, like from a closer standpoint, he's there. And for me, like I know you said you didn't buy into the Giants rumors, but it is just nice to have that pretty much locked down that Doval is probably going to be the guy, and especially Iglesias. Like I took Iglesias in the 3rd round of our Gladiator last week. and a lot of that was because I feel he's the guy with Kenley not a threat anymore. So that was the big takeaway for me, was those other jobs where there were teams that may have signed Kenley. That's now off the board. So it just solidifies them a little bit more.
For sure. So the Houston Astros, big move here. I'm a big fan of this. I'm gonna let you have the floor first before I maybe steal some more bullet points from here. But Jose Abreu going to Houston, taking the place of Yuli Gurriel, which is a big time upgrade. Abreu coming off what some may seem a down season based on his ADP. A lot think that. Well, this could be one of the value spots in the draft right here with Jose Abreu. But what do you think about him going to Houston?
I mean, there's really no. However you slice this, it's really hard to say this is not a, this is a great move for Jose Abreu. Like, just going into that lineup, that park, yada yada. The one thing I will say about Abreu is 27% fly ball rate second half last season. Like that is an issue, and that if he keeps pounding the ball on the ground like he did last year, Park's not going to do anything with that. So that is one thing to keep in mind. But I don't know. This is a guy who has hit 30 home runs in 2021 and 2019. Heck, he hit 19 in the shortened season of 2020. So like, I think 2022 last year, that power outage, especially in the second half, is the outlier. And so this move helps even more. I wonder if it's just trying to think of a couple other kind of upshots to this. I wonder if it keeps Kyle Tucker down in the order. I don't know if that's enough to move the needle. Like, I still like Kyle Tucker around like 5th overall in drafting holes next year. But just, I don't know, one of those little ripple effects that may or may not get talked about.
Yeah, and the thing with the Abreu as well, you mentioned the fly ball percentage going down. His fly balls overall for the season, lots of opposite field fly balls as well. Something he has to adjust to for the power, especially the Crawford box. That'd be big. But you look at like the hard hit rates and all the metrics that show quality of contact, that's still fine. He still hits for average even last year. I ain't too worried about it, I'll be honest, especially in that lineup. So yeah. I'm with you there. Flip side, though, Chicago now, it locks Andrew Vaughn into first base, which is big. And more importantly, locks Eloy Jimenez into the DH role. No more offenses unless he really screws up there. But I wrote about it earlier this offseason. I know people, Curlin and others tweeted about it, and many have. Once he came back from his injury and primarily DH'd, dude was good, really, really good. And it's just something about getting him out of his own way. Now, I don't see the White Sox making moves. Like, this should be Vaughn at first and Eloy and then DH. I think that's big for both of them, obviously, because it's going to lock Vaughn's thing that always bugged me is the inconsistency in playing time between the outfield and first base. Now he's back to his college position. He can do his thing. Phenomenal, like, pro hitter, like really good hitter. Now you got Eloy at DH. Those are big upgrades for both of them if they can stay locked into that spot in the middle of the White Sox lineup. That's another perk to Abreu being gone for good.
Yep. I mean, I had the Eloy box or either Brian Rudd did, but either way on my team, and we threw an upside 40 home runs on him for this year. Like, that second half when he was back and ready to go, Eloy was fantastic. And I remember back to, and this is in no way a victory lap, but like I look back, I did a show of hands at First Pitch Arizona. How many people thought Eloy or think Eloy is injury prone, and pretty much the entire room raised their hands. Yeah. And that may or may not be the case. I don't know. But with Eloy, like, it was different body parts the last 2 years, and he finished. I'll repeat this all off season long. He finished the season healthy and he finished strong. So this only helps bubble wrap Eloy and put him higher on my board.
For sure, with you there. Let's go to the big one that took place on Monday. It's Tuesday now. Monday, December 12th. There's been rumors of Sean Murphy trades forever, even during the trade deadline last year. Well, it finally happened. 3-team trade. We'll kind of start with each player, but we'll start here. Sean Murphy goes to Atlanta, where Travis d'Arnaud is still in Atlanta. We'll talk about the other catcher that's gone shortly, but even in Atlanta last year with d'Arnaud and Contreras, they both played well over 100 games. They DH'd. They got the job done. So now Murphy slots in there. And Ryan, we talked about it a few weeks ago. What made him even more valuable is the dude played and played and played in Oakland. Now it's curious to see how this goes. You'd imagine he still plays plenty, but does the potential downgrade in playing time, but better lineup and park offset each other? That's the $1 million question.
Yeah, and that's almost like a valuation kind of thing. I almost want to, I want to run that number, and because I do think the park's better, the team's better, the rate stats, even the counting stats may improve, but I don't think he's playing 148 games again. I mean, I think that was just
130.
Oakland.
Like 130 is the goal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and that would make sense. That just puts him down more like in the, I don't know, like a regular catcher. There's so many catchers that also did other things last year that have that jump over guys who only play catcher, like Murphy probably will. Murphy, I mean, maybe he'll DH some, but yeah, I think overall it's the market probably says it's a good move for Murphy. I would say it's neutral, just because I don't see I see Oakland playing him far more than Atlanta will.
Yeah, Steamer has him for 133 games, 21 homers, 69 runs, 73 RBIs, hitting 246. Pretty darn close to his line last year.
Yeah,
Pretty darn close to his line in Oakland last year. So kind of goes what you're saying there. You know, the fewer at bats, better team, it might kind of neutralize out. But also what you said there, I think in drafts he's going to get a bump that will probably take him out of any consideration for me, especially with the next. Well, I guess we'll hit on it real quick. What do you think this does to Travis d'Arnaud? I might as well mention it because he's still getting drafted relatively high, not like super high, but ADP of 192 right now. He's like
he's around 200.
He's a top 15 catcher. So it could be interesting.
Yeah, he's going right above Keibert Ruiz, who obviously does have a full-time gig in Washington. I did see something where Alex Anthopoulos talked to d'Arnaud before the trade and assured d'Arnaud he'll get regular playing time at designated hitter. Take that for what that's worth. I don't know. I don't know if d'Arnaud is their regular DH. I think it pushes him down quite a bit. I thought there was more of a timeshare there when it was Willson Contreras and Travis d'Arnaud. I think that goes to more of like a 65-70% split in favor of Murphy.
Especially because Murphy's a very good defensive catcher as well.
Exactly.
So that's going to keep him out there for sure.
Yep.
All right. Let's go to the one that made me smile and smile and smile. Because I've been drafting him a lot. Free Willy. Willson Contreras goes to the same division as his brother now, goes to the Milwaukee Brewers. And, we're talking good ballparks to hit in. Milwaukee's pretty darn good to hit in. Now he's going to be the everyday dude, either at catcher or potentially DH. Hit in the middle of the order that, you still have Yelich, you have Adames, Rowdy's doing his thing, and you picked up Winker. Like, this is very entitled. The Braves line is still better. I'm not going to pretend it's not. But now you got no one in Williams' way. This could be a dude that plays easily 130 games if he stays healthy, if not more. He played 97 last year and hit 20 bombs and hit 278. Like, this dude should play 130 plus, in my opinion. But what are your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I love it for him because like we were just talking about with d'Arnaud, I thought it was a 50-50 split. And now for Contreras in Milwaukee, I think it's much more than that. And yeah, the dude, like he has a little Vlad Jr. in him. I listened to the show with Toby with the Tour of Shame round 2. He does have something, got that elite power, but also a 53% ground ball rate last year for Contreras. So like he needs to tweak that a little bit, but man, the guy can hit. I don't know if he'll hit 275 again. I think we're projecting like 255, 260 at HQ. But give the guy, I mean, he's 25. Like give him a chance to get settled, play every day. I think it works wonders for Willson Contreras' value. I want to throw this back to you as the catcher guy. Willson Contreras, 145 ADP. He's going behind. Would you take him over Tyler Stevenson?
Yes.
You're not a big Stevenson.
I have Contreras. Contreras I'll help you out here right now. He's like my 5th-ish catcher right now.
Okay.
Before the trade, I had him at 6. I'd move him above his brother.
So you have him higher. Okay, that's what I was going to ask. Is above Wilson?
It's
so you are.
Well, I'm all in on William. I've been drafting him everywhere. He was like the 9th or 10th catcher off the board when I started drafting. This is where not drafting a bunch of teams early is really going to bug me. Because now I'm going to have to pay the price. But it's JTR, Varsho, Will Smith, Salvi, and then William for me. And William and Salvi is very close. I could almost tell myself to take William over Salvi as well. So
So you'll have plenty of them. I think even once the market adjusts to this move, you're still going to be. You'll have plenty of him.
Yeah, there's certain guys I get bullish on, and people think I'm crazy, but that's part of making your own rankings and standing your ground. And he's a guy that I believe is 130 games. I believe there's just like 30 plus homer potential. It's crazy.
That's funny. I have him, HQ has him 6th.
Yep,
number 6 catcher.
Well, there's a reason HQ actually tells me I can write for him, so I like a little bit of something going on there
because of your catcher prowess.
Yes, I'm telling you. I wish I could spend that much time on every position. I might actually win a main event or something. Yeah. No, that requires fab another 26 weeks out of the year. Never mind. I just need to draft best balls.
We need more Bubbas.
There we go. A lot more. Let's talk about the A's, though, man. Man, Scott Jenstead, we love you, brother. We love you. Your Twitter. It's fun. I hope the Warriors start winning games for you. That's all I'm going to say. Niners are doing great. But the A's are doing A's things, and they shipped off Sean Murphy and got a kind of mediocre return compared to many. But they did get Estieri Ruiz out of Milwaukee, which kind of frees up some other guys in Milwaukee with Mitchell and Weimer and Frolic and stuff potentially throughout the season. But Ruiz should get to play pretty much every day for Oakland, Ryan. And if people don't know, it's like Forrest. He runs and runs and runs. So what do you think about Estieri Ruiz in Oakland?
Yeah, this is like the Jonathan VR effect. Like, just get a guy who runs and isn't the best real life player, but put him on a team that, I mean, Oakland doesn't really care. And I think Oakland, when we saw what Oakland did with Starling Marte when he came over that second half of, I guess, 2021, it was just unbelievable. And I think Ruiz is going to have that leash. I mean, can he get on base enough? I think that's the question. Is the hit tool there? I think that's a question as well. But this is a guy who last season hit, let's see, 15 home runs in the minors and stole an ungodly amount of bases. So, like, I don't know, a steamer projection of 243, 10 home runs, and 35 steals. I don't know if that's been updated since Oakland. I could see him going 45, 50 steals, honestly. He doesn't need to be good to play every day. And I think he's going to run like crazy.
Yeah, people talk to like the lack of power. We know that. Just get on base. And he hit for a decent average throughout the minors. So there's a little bit of hope there for sure. So, yeah, that's fun. I'll mention one more name here that we don't have down, but Kyle Muller comes to Oakland. Once a pretty high pitching prospect for the Braves, pitched really well in the minors. I believe he, I saw a tweet actually, he led the, International League or Atlantic League, whatever their AAA is down there, led it in strikeouts. First Braves pitcher to do that since Kyle Wright. You might have heard of him before, people. But he struggled in his time with the Braves, which we've seen a lot of young pitchers do. But he goes to Oakland, very pitcher-friendly ballpark. Going to get a chance to pitch because why would they not throw him? And he's got an ADP close to 500 right now, Ryan. Yep. So is there any interest in a guy like Kyle Muller?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, especially with the park. I mean, the team-wise, you're not going to give him any wins, not going to get much run support there. But that park is such a boon to pitcher value that Kyle Muller, and the ADP will go up. But with the pedigree that you mentioned, Bubba, I know he's like 25 now, but he still owns that. So absolutely a dart I would throw. You never know. Dude, 6'7", 250. He's a house.
He's a huge house. He's a big dude. He'd make me feel tiny. That says a lot.
That says a lot.
That says a lot, folks.
But yeah, man, Oakland, it sucks to be an Oakland fan.
Yep, it does.
Right now. They're just setting things up, I think, to move.
But they have to. They're basically forcing baseball's hand. Like, hey, you guys don't want to let us move? Well, we're to make the worst possible team you can. This is literally the movie Major League in real life. They already made made Moneyball. Now we're going to make Major League the prequel. This is what's happening right here. They need the lady to be in the clubhouse and all this stuff. Like, this is Major League. Where's Roger Dorn? Where's Jake Taylor? Like, this is where it's happening.
I think we'll get to Jake Taylor and Roger Dorn at the end of the show.
That's Carney Lansford and enough for those throwback guys right there.
Ruiz is Willie Mays Hayes for sure.
Yes, for sure. Like, who's this guy? You run like Mays, but you hit like, okay, I'll leave it alone. But one of my favorite movies. I can quote the whole thing. So
classic
movie. Speaking of teams that do spend a lot of money, opposite of the Oakland A's, go back to New York to the Mets. Brandon Nimmo, big boy deal, long-term deal. when I just thought about that, it makes me feel a little better about Carlos Correa. I'll be totally honest, because Nimmo has not stayed healthy in most of his career. But when he does, OBP greatness, top of the order, really good defender. There's that part to like, but man, he literally. I know you'll talk about the stats here, but we don't see a lot of consistent play year in and year out from Brandon Nimmo.
He did have 673 plate appearances last year, so he did.
Can you add the previous 3 seasons together?
You can add
by chance.
You can add 20 and 21 together, and I think that's a little bit less than 673. Yeah, so I do hear you. I mean, fantasy wise for Nimmo, I mentioned this a little bit last show, but he's a much better real life player than fantasy. Just like you mentioned with Bubba, with the OBP, with the defense in center field. I've seen studies that actually rate this contract actually pretty well over time from a real baseball standpoint. From fantasy wise, I don't think it really moves the needle in terms of anything. So I don't know. Not much changes if you're Brandon Nimmo fan in fantasy. There probably aren't that many just because he walks so much. And I always say guys who walk a lot in fantasy, it doesn't do much for me. I know like from a long-term and like prospect angle, you want to see guys who are patient and take walks, but from a pure fantasy standpoint, it really doesn't do much for you unless you run a lot. That's the only kind of caveat to that. Brandon Nimmo getting on base, he doesn't run a lot. In those 673 plate appearances last year, Brandon Nimmo had 3 steals. So him getting on base, maybe it's a few more runs here and there, but I'd almost rather him be more aggressive at the plate, put some more of those balls in play.
100% with you on that one. We'll see how it plans out. Better real life move, as you said, than potentially fantasy wise. Boston Red Sox, they were at it again, and this is another deal that was not that expensive. Seemed very, very intriguing. Masataka Yoshida signs with the Boston Red Sox.
Not bad.
Very, very good hitter. I need to know it because I drafted him literally like 30 minutes before he signed that one day.
I know.
That was like the biggest luck thing in the world. But dude's got really good OBP skills, some decent power, and he's done it year in and year out in Japan. We'll see how it translates in the bigs. Roster Resource has him leading off for Boston, so we'll see.
Yeah, that's a big one. I wonder fantasy wise, and again, I don't have much background knowledge on him at all, on Yoshida at all, but did slash 336, 450 OBP last year, and slugged 560 and 20 plus homers in each of the last 2 seasons overseas. So like that's there, but yeah, all the scouting reports kind of say he's OBP guy, rate guy. I don't know about the power and steal. So like, I don't know. I wonder if like someone like Alex Verdugo is the comp, someone maybe like who compiles 15 to 20 homers, but also gets you that really good batting average. From what I've seen, I wish he ran more in overseas, and maybe Boston will unlock that a little bit more. I don't know what the raw speed looks like, but from a fantasy angle, I think that's kind of his path to value. I don't know if it's going to be there or not.
Yeah, I can see that for sure. I think it'll be interesting. I've heard the Verdugo comp a couple plays. I think it's very good. I think it's a very valid one from the profile we're seeing.
I came up with that today, so I don't know.
It's because it's why you're a former baseball writer of the year. So you're good at that kind of stuff. But like Tim McLeod, I asked him immediately because he's an expert in the Japan and Asian markets, and he basically said a guy's going to hit probably 280 to 85, 20 to 25 home runs. And so it's kind of like what you're thinking. He's going to be very, very productive. Might not light the world on fire, but a really good fantasy. Like maybe your 3rd or 4th outfielder on your roster. Nothing wrong with that at all. So problem is helium will probably come up in drafts because Boston, new shiny toy.
Yeah. The additional thing that just popped in, and we talked about how bad outfield was last week in the Gladiator, is like, I mean, this is a guy who sticks out in, when you need that 3rd or 4th outfielder, like you were just saying. How many of those guys are going to lead off? Not many. Yeah. You're looking at more like power guys who platoon at that stage in the draft and outfield. So that's a good point.
Yep. All right. Hey, look at Brewers, another trade. Look at Mariners, another trade. Like we can do it together here. Mariners and Brewers meet up. Colton Wong goes to the Mariners. We'll start with that one. Like I've always been a Wong fan. I believe you've been a Wong fan too. He's got power speed combo, hits for an okay average. He gets towards the top of the order. Kind of crappy to me going to Seattle because ballpark shift ain't great. They're already saying they'll probably platoon him with Dylan Moore because he does not hit lefties that great. And so you're losing a little viability, but at the same time, should still get you, 10 to 15 homers and 15 or so stolen bases. But I don't like the idea of the platoon in Seattle.
Yeah, I think, and I could very well be wrong on this. I think Seattle's going to give Colton Wong not everyday playing time, but I think it'll be more than a platoon. I think they'll definitely play him against lefties. I don't think he's an automatic bench against lefties. Colton Wong for his career has actually a pretty good contact rate against lefties, a 654 OPS, which isn't good, but it's not like awful. Last year he was terrible against lefties, but it was 80 at bats. Like you really can't take that much away from it. So I know I will recognize that there's some playing time risk with Colton Wong going to Seattle. And like you said, Bubba, the park is a problem, but I don't know. Dylan Moore isn't really that great. Dylan Moore is also like a utility guy who plays everywhere. So I could see a lot of times where Dylan Moore is in the lineup against a lefty, but it's not at second base, and Colton Wong is playing second base. So I like it for Colton Wong. Just I think he's going to hit into the top of that order. I took Colton Wong in our Gladiator last week. Maybe the power takes a little bit of a hit going to Seattle, but I think he'll run, and I think he gives you that kind of modest 5 category production at an ADP of 239, which is pretty palatable.
And the other thing to mention, I kind of agree with you. Like, at least I think it'll be like 75-25 for Wong playing time potentially. And one of the big reasons is an elite defender, Gold Glove defender at second base. And you look at this Mariners team, which is already loaded offensively, so they don't have to like sacrifice to get another bat in there. But they got this pitching staff of Gilbert and Kirby, these young arms.
Mm-hmm.
Last thing you want to do is put bad defenders behind them so they can get tilted on the mound and get blown up. Like, so you trade for a Wong because you already got the bats in place. And I think that's something to add to it that might keep him in the lineup, like you're saying. So maybe he leads off versus righties and hits farther down versus lefties, but he's still in the lineup.
I think that makes sense. I think that's probably the most likely scenario. I think so.
Okay. Milwaukee, though, on the flip side, this could be what Jesse Winker needs. Like, we knew what he did in Cincinnati. It was horrific in Seattle. Injured a lot, just couldn't hit. Goes back to the Central, hits in the middle of a lineup that a much better hitting ballpark for him than Seattle was. There were some weird reports coming out of Seattle that he wasn't like a team player, didn't want to partake in stuff. That's concerning a bit. Never really heard that in Cincinnati, though, so who knows. But Winker back in Milwaukee can't do anything but help him a bit, right?
Right. Winker needed to get out of Seattle. That's a good point about none of those, not rumors, but those kind of tea leaves coming out that he was not a bad teammate, but just didn't kind of want to be there. That wasn't the case in Cincinnati, at least publicly, but it seemed to be the case in Seattle. Like Winker was getting dealt no matter what. So I don't know. The pessimistic view of Jesse Winker is, yes, he was great in 2021. He's been traded now. This will be his 3rd team in 3 years. Like, do you want that on your team? The optimistic point of view is you basically write off 2022 as an injury fueled disaster. And you're looking at what we saw in 2021 with Jesse Winker, where he hit 300 and hit 24 home runs. I don't think that's going to happen again. Like, Cincinnati is a great park. And so I don't know if that happens again, but I also don't know if he plays against lefties. That's the problem too. I think we're platooning again there as well. So I don't know.
That could be a Keston here, a Jesse Winker platoon.
Yep. Nope. That's a perfect platoon relationship.
Yep, it is. In baseball terms, that's how it should be, actually. So we'll see how that plays out. Flip side, I don't know if we have a ton on it, but Abraham Toro maybe takes Jace Peterson's spot there on the team. Like, Toro's got some upside, but it's not like I think a lot of us thought there was more there, and it just hasn't happened yet.
Yep, agreed. He's a backup guy with a pretty limited homer stolen base ceiling. So I don't know, maybe late DC, but that's about it.
Okay, I'll make the executive decision. We'll do a couple more, and we'll rotate the rest off till next Thursday's show and add on the Carlos Rodon signing to the Yankees and many other ones that will come up. Because God, if the Giants do him long term too, you might lose me. Just gonna throw it out there right now. If that's just, I could see it coming now. Let's go to Chris Bassett. This is the guy I would have been cool with the Giants signing, Chris Bassett goes to the Toronto Blue Jays, a team that needs pitching depth. And it's just big move here. So you got Manoah, you got Gossman, Barrios. You'd have to imagine looks a little better hopefully next year. Same with Kikuchi. Now you throw Bassett in there. They needed another guy behind Gossman and Manoah. And Bassett's just that steady Eddie, not overly like he's kind of boring to the eye. But when you look at his numbers at the end of the year, the dude is what you want, especially as your third starting pitcher in a rotation, let alone a fancy pitcher. He's phenomenal. That's why I wanted him in San Francisco badly.
And you didn't get him, man. Didn't get him.
Yeah, and we'll get to who we got next week. Yeah, let me tilt on that a little longer.
Yeah, I think steady's the way to go with Bassett. Yeah, 160 innings in 2021, 180 last year with the Mets. It is kind of that stabilizer that Toronto needs. I like going. I always think moving to the AL East is a bad thing for a pitcher, but schedules are more balanced, and if anything, the NL East is a heck of a lot tougher than any other division, at least next year, just with the way the Phillies are spending, with the way that the Mets are spending, the way that the Braves are running their show extremely efficiently. That's a tough division to pitch in. So AL East thing doesn't really bother me that much. And yeah, Bassett's just steady. I was an not anti-Bassett, but I was off of Bassett coming into 2022 at like the 3 ERA that he had combined the last 2 seasons heading into last year. He had some really good home run luck, but I think the 3.42 ERA that Bassett posted last year, probably pretty reasonable. And you put that with like 180, 170 innings in Toronto, I think he's going to get plenty of wins for you. He had 15 wins last year with the Mets. I would think something similar in Toronto. So
yeah, when you look at his profile, like again, steady as we've been saying. Innings, starts, ratios, strikeouts, you kind of know who you're getting with Chris Bassett. So yep. I like drafting guys like that. Makes me feel a lot better about life. Clayton Kershaw, they made it official, coming back for his swan song with the Doyers. And kind of said it earlier, expect probably 130 to 140, but it's going to be pretty good innings unless the back finally gives out. Somehow Steamers got him for 163. I'm hard to believe that happens. When it's been 126, 121, 58 in the shortened 2020 season, and then he was okay from there. But the last couple of seasons, I think that's more what you're looking at. Still elite ratios, good strikeout numbers, going to be very strong, and you got a whopping ADP of 137. That's the conundrum.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like the price. So I've got Kershaw down for 120 innings with like a 3 ERA, 1 WHIP. He comes out as over 120 innings. He comes out as my 43rd starting pitcher. So I'm probably not getting him. I know from like a pure valuation standpoint, you need to factor in some of that lost time. And then if you're in a league with IL stints, like I think that absolutely bumps up Kershaw. But I don't know, more of the same. You're just kind of playing with that innings pitch number, and you're also playing with that decision that you'll have to make every Sunday night in Fab, making sure you have a backup in place for Kershaw basically every week of the season, because you don't know when he's going to miss his starts. It's kind of the most frustrating thing. And that's probably why I won't take him either, is I value my sanity on Sunday nights to not do that. So,
pro tip, don't draft deGrom and Kershaw on the same team. Just gonna throw it out there. You're gonna want to just end it all by midseason.
Only if you pair it with Luis Robert on the hitting side. Only if
and Tim Anderson, just for fun. Just for fun. All right, we'll wrap it up there, because a lot of these next pitchers coming up have a lot of similarities that I think will be fun to talk about, especially come draft season. Got 3 listener questions to hit up here, and like I said, we'll power through all these, and whatever signings take place come next Thursday before the holiday week ahead. We'll start with Little Book of Calm. Our buddy here says there have been so many mid to bottom rotation guys signing in new places. Who are your 2 to 3 most and least favorites? Tim Anderson, Bassett, Stripling, Benaya, Gibson, Tyon, Clevenger, Quintana, Walker, Velasquez, Eflin, and Heaney. I'll let you have first dibs. Who are your 2 to 3 most favorite mid-tier guys that signed? I think Bassett leads the list for me, but who else you got there?
Yeah, I'd say Bassett, and I won't copy on it. So yeah, I like Bassett, but I think Heaney, which we'll talk about next week, and Quintana. I think those are my.
I was going to go Bassett. Yeah, I was going to go Bassett and Quintana. I think that's kind of a good little wheelhouse right there. So
what about least? What about least?
I like where you're going with this. You're trying to poke the bear, aren't you? You're trying to poke the bear here. You guys have to wait till next week for that. It's gonna be Sean Manaea for sure. That's gonna be a big least. And then I'm gonna say Mike Clevenger. I think some more are way more up on him than I am. I think there's something seriously wrong with that boy.
Interesting. There very well could be. I think for me, Tyler Anderson is my least favorite. I think just moving away from the Dodgers is really going to hurt him. And then I'll go because we'll hold it for next week. But I'll say Vince Velasquez.
I'll say Vince Velasquez. Just do it.
Who the Pirates Twitter account today was funny. They did like a. I mean, it's their social media person, so they have to. It's their job. You have to hype these guys up. They put out a Vince Velasquez hype video, and it was funny. Poor Pirates.
A team like the Pirates, who aren't going anywhere, should have photoshopped his head on top of Joe Pesci's head and My Cousin Vinny, and made a great stick out of it. That's what they should have done. But don't tell me I don't know what I'm doing.
Just lean into it at this point.
Yeah, you're not going anywhere. Have some fun with it. Like, seriously. Mike Genray says, do you see Winker as the primary DH now that the Brewers have their catcher sneaky upside? We kind of hit on it. He's the primary against right-handed pitching. Yeah.
Yep. I don't think Milwaukee's going to play Winker against lefties. It's really rough. So
yeah, that's a tough one. And then we had one come in during the show, and it's a question about the Gladiator from Jay Mitz, who drafted with us last week, Ryan.
That's right. Yep.
He says, what do you guys think the winning overall lineup will have in the Gladiator? 6 starting pitchers and 3 relievers, 7 starting pitchers and 2 relievers. I think it's more the 7-2 formula, because I think a lot of guys that only take two elite ones or higher end ones, so you have 7 pitchers to rack up the other categories. That's my thoughts. Could be totally wrong.
Yeah, I think 7-2 if to win the overall 7-2, because if you've got 6, it's just so hard to make gains in wins and strikeouts. I think it's 7-2, and I think those 2 relievers are going to have to be relievers that are late, that you just hit on late. I don't know if just by taking like what I did, what you did, what we both did, taking an early reliever like that, it doesn't kill you in the overall. But to be able to get those saves at a cheaper opportunity cost, I think is going to be the play. So I'd go 7-2 with two closers that just you hit the nuts with 2.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. I'm really looking forward to seeing how the Gladiator eventually kind of falls into place and see how it works out, because it's not just roster construction as much as stay healthy, stay on the field, because it's wild. It's a wild formula, and it is fun that you have to have at least 125 innings. You can't just go pure relievers and go that route and just punt wins instead, because you can almost go pure relievers and hope for a couple of guys to get like 6 wins or something and probably not finish dead last. And like it's an interesting formula. We don't have time to talk about that tonight, but a lot of interesting strategies there. And if you guys missed it, the live show last week, episode 31, where we went over a ton of strategies in live as we went going there, just like, how should we go this way, should we go that way? It was awesome. And I'll say it, I know Ryan, I'll speak for Ryan, I think, unless I'm wrong, we really appreciated all the feedback. It was cool seeing all you guys, how much you guys enjoyed it and talked about it. It was fun, lots of fun.
Yeah, I think more than even like our normal shows, like the feedback was really, really good on that one. So that was really cool to hear from everyone, and just in general, it's just awesome to hear feedback like that on any show. So we put a lot of time into this, and everyone does, but it's always good to hear the folks that are listening and sending in questions and patting us on the back. We appreciate it.
Yep, we appreciate it. And since we appreciate it so much, one more episode before the year's over. That'll be next Thursday coming at you guys. We will continue on. We still have like at least
we made a good
dent,
but
we still have feels like 20 names to go at least, and
good.
whatever else takes place this week. So we'll be coming. And for any of you that take early holiday, we're coming at you midday. So get your high noons ready, get your lunch, come join the party. We're gonna have a good time. So
it'll be on my lunch of my day job. So probably no high noon, but
I have to go to the dentist afterwards, so probably no high noons for me either. They might frown upon that, so we'll see. But we'll talk about that next time. Make sure you guys follow Ryan on Twitter at RyanBHQ, and check his Twitter, or actually check out at BaseballHQ's Twitter Wednesday night as Ryan is going live with the Godfather himself, Chandler. Ray Murphy and Brent Hershey and others to preview the Forecaster.
Yep,
So,
Forecaster's out and out in the wild. Do you have your copy yet, Bubba? Has
it got dropped off at my house this afternoon because it went to a previous location of mine. So I don't know what day it came in, but I got it today. Yes.
Nice. I'm still waiting.
I was like you. I saw your tweet, by the way, and I saw all the pictures. I was just like you. I'm like, when does mine come in?
I'm still waiting. I've got a buddy of mine in the same town in Oregon. He got his like yesterday, so I don't know. I don't know what's going on. But
You'd think you knew somebody.
You would think.
You would think you would know somebody, but who knows? But yeah, guys, check that out. It's always fun to see them talk about it, go over some stuff. And you got a cool, forgive me, guest talking about an essay. Totally just blanked on the name.
Ed DeCaria is doing an essay. And anyone who has the Forecaster, check it out. He's got an essay on playing time measurement, playing time metrics, which is really fascinating stuff. We spend so much time looking at barrel rates and ground ball rates and fly ball rates, and we kind of take playing time and go, I don't know, 550 plate appearances, 520. That stuff matters. I mean, and this came up in some of the guys we were talking about with like Willson Contreras, just that minor bump in playing time does so much from a valuation standpoint. And it's something that I don't think the industry as a whole spends enough time on. So Ed did some really good research on that, and he's going to talk through that on the live stream Wednesday night. So yeah, check out the Baseball HQ Twitter account. We're going to run it from our YouTube feed, and I'm going to be playing host. It's not my normal dig. I don't know if I can. There's no way I'll be as good as you at it, but I'm going to flip from analyst to host, and we'll just see how it goes.
You'd be surprised. You picked it up pretty quick so far, so I wouldn't be too worried about it. And you got a great group to help kind of ramrod it all together. So you guys already check that out, 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific time on the feeds. You'll enjoy that. But until then, Ryan's on Twitter at RyanBHQ. I'm at BDentric, and we'll catch you guys next week. Thanks for listening.